Hello, hello. Welcome again to the All In podcast with Nate Peo. My guest today is Paul Brown from Baked Bean Media. He is actually from the UK. He's a CEO, top 100 podcaster, ex-chef, content creator, social media marketer, Instagrammer, YouTuber, TikToker, and Jaeger bomb drinker. Welcome to the show, Paul. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me on. It is 2 o'clock on the West Coast, if I'm correct.
It's 2 p.m. on the West Coast, yeah. What is
Excellent.
that for you?
It is now 10 o'clock here in London.
Okay. Little in the morning or the evening? It's evening,
We're in the
right?
evening, so we're about to go into serious lockdown in London tomorrow. So I'm going to be really honest with you. I've had a few drinks, and I've came home especially to be on this live session.
Well, I appreciate you making time for it. So was it Jaeger bombs that you were having?
If you follow us on Instagram, it was Jaeger bombs, Guinness, pint. It was a good mixture.
Oh man, I have not drank Jägermeister for like a super long time, and there's actually kind of this embarrassingly funny story. Is I went out to Cabo San Lucas in Mexico with some coworkers of mine, and this was I was in my like late 20s, early 30s. I can't remember exactly. And we went out drinking, and I was like, "You guys gotta try these things called Jaeger bombs." And it's Red Bull, Jägermeister, slamming them back. And we got just snockered, like we got real drunk, and I was probably the drunkest I've been. And we were supposed to get on this boat and go fishing at like
Ooh,
6 a.m. in the morning, and
no.
I missed it. I didn't. We got back from the bars like 4 a.m. and I woke up and it was like 10, and I was like, "Oh crap, I missed the boat." But luckily for me, I think the waters were all like super super choppy, and they were like, "Yeah, you didn't miss much." So, anyways, that's probably the last time I've really thoroughly enjoyed a Jägermeister.
Yeah, it's a nice drink. I like the idea of your shooting mixture. It's a bit of a fun. It makes it a bit of a evening. So yeah, yeah, I enjoy it. So
Yeah. So Baked Bean Media, tell me a little bit about your company, your business, and like what brought you to start the company, name the company what it's called, and what it is you actually do.
yeah, so my background, obviously ex-chef, then was part of a business which I was one of three founders, and then grew it to 100 people, a sales business, and that was in recruitment. I then exited it over a year ago and set up Baked Bean Media. In the last year of the corporate business, I was doing direct marketing, winning sales business by using social media. And then that's when I got the idea of I do this in a boring recruitment sector. Why not try and do this in more sexier industries like sports, medicine, tech? Yeah, and that's where Baked Bean Media started, really. So using the methodologies that I did in a large corporate, and now having the free reign to do where and go wherever I want. And yeah, it's been really, really enjoyable setting up my own business or with my co-founder. And we're up to 6 people now. And yeah, just having great fun, working with an array of clients, but all about creating lots and lots of social media content.
And you're working across like a lot of platforms too, like
Yeah,
big.
so a lot of people are just LinkedIn focused these days, but I actually work across LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube. Yeah, I'm posting on most platforms every day. And
Now,
yeah,
now,
Instagram, I'm posting 10 to 15 stories a day, TikTok 4 stories a day, like it's a natural machine of just creating content.
so is this all content you're creating for your own personal like brand to build your business, and in addition to that, you guys are creating content for your clients too, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm producing content for myself and then using that methodology for some of our clients. And I've got a team of people that are obviously producing the content, massaging the client to produce the content as well. So yeah, it's similar to the Gary V methodology of pumping out relevant content.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not 100% in bed with Gary, but there is, 80% of the stuff he says is really interesting and really good, and using some of them methodologies.
So I want to get your take on it on social media and like how you could use the Gary V methodology for somebody that like is kind of like out there getting started on social media, really wants to grow a brand following. And I'll tell you a little story. So when I was like starting my podcast, I first started thinking about it. It came from Gary Vaynerchuk telling me, like, not personally, but like his video saying, like, hey, you got to get on two platforms. One is LinkedIn and one is TikTok. Those two you can grow organically. And I had some experience with like Instagram and Facebook, and knew that like it was like strictly like pay to play to really grow organically. And so I was like, that would be a pretty interesting thing to do. So I'll go on LinkedIn. I had a LinkedIn account since like 2008, something like that. When people are like, hey, there's this website out, they post your resume up there. And I didn't do shit with it, but accept every connection request I ever came across for like 10 years. So I had a decent base, or I thought it was a decent base, a few thousand people. I was like, hey, I got a few thousand people. Maybe I should do something with that audience. And then I was like, okay, I'll go on TikTok too, and I'll start creating things. And like, everybody says like, hey, just create content, don't worry about what anybody else is doing. But I got so frustrated with TikTok because I would make content and I would put effort into it and I'd get no traction. I put in a little bit of effort or no effort, I get a bit more views. But I was always in this space where if I posted garbage, I could get 50 views. But I would post stuff that would get 1, 2. And I was like, I must be in some sort of jail. And then I'd watch somebody else come on like 2 weeks after me, and they'd be like, oh, I just hit my first 100,000 view video. And I'm like, why can't I break like 100? Like it, and I just got like so frustrated with it. Like I didn't even know where to begin like creating content. So that question I'm asking, like, what should somebody new be doing? That's kind of like me back a year ago, like, hey, I don't know what to do. And I just kind of focused on LinkedIn because it was working for me and I was getting good traction. But on the other platforms, I just kind of got bored with them.
I'm going to use a cliche thing. It's all about going all in. So you've like, let's be really clear. Me, you probably have a similar mindset. We are not going to be celebrities. We're not going to do 10 videos and get 100,000. We've got to work for it.
Mm-hmm.
And to work for it, I like cooking, but cooking doesn't work for me on TikTok. It's really bizarre. If I post a video of 6 seconds of a police car in London, I may get 1 million views. But to get there, I've literally got my phone in my hand, going for a walk around London, and I'm filming 10 bits of content. I'm not thinking about it. I'm visualizing it, yes, but I'm not like editing it or anything. So I'm trying to ask a question in the video. So I'm thinking about it. Maybe I see a nice car in central London and I'll film it. Would you have this car in blue or red? Simple as that. Post it. 3, 4 hashtags, Ferrari, blue, central London. And then basically just be dedicated to every day going for an hour walk, getting 10 clips of random things, posting it, and then seeing what works and what doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And you will find a niche, but it'll be very slow. It'll be very annoying. It's similar to meeting a girl in a bar, it's a numbers game. The more girls you approach, the more videos you put on TikTok, you'll start learning and understanding what's working and what's not working. And we're talking about 10% better videos. That's what we're looking for, is them little spikes in success, and then keep doing more and more of them success and less of the bottom stuff.
Mm-hmm. So where should you be focusing your social media efforts? Should you be picking one platform or over another, or should that be industry specific, or should you just be like, I need to be everywhere no matter what I'm doing?
Yeah, I think the answer to the question is, honestly, you should be on LinkedIn. It's the best B2B platform out there. However, there is enjoyment and you can be successful across all platforms. And I don't want to keep talking about Gary Vee, but if you produce content for LinkedIn, you know, you've produced it, the copyright, you've produced it, the video. Why not just invest 1 minute and put it on Facebook? Why not invest another minute and put on LinkedIn, on Instagram or Twitter as well? So you've copied it. So all you have to do is push paste on Facebook, paste on Twitter, and paste on maybe YouTube, or depending on the length, or chop it up a little bit for TikTok, paste it. You've got the hashtags, at least try these things. So to answer your question, yes, I would only focus on LinkedIn if I had the gun to my head and had to pick one. But yeah, naturally, I would try and be efficient and post across all networks.
Hmm. Well, let's talk about one you didn't mention in there, and that's podcasting. You have a podcast, you're a big podcaster. What is your take on, should people have a podcast? Should people be trying to get on podcasts? What's the real story behind a podcast?
Yeah, so give you a bit of history. I've got over 600 podcasts myself, probably more actually, maybe 700. But yeah, especially I focus, I like cooking, I like American football, believe it or not. And I like doing journalism in London, like going to live events in London and talking about it. So they're my three subject areas. And I actually do podcasts on the Cleveland Browns. And I've done it for the last 3 years. And the first thing that I learned was the ability to get exposure to senior people was rapid and fast. Now, if you're in a sales job, you're knocking on a door like everyone else in a saturated market. But 3 years ago, I was inviting senior people, senior American football people to come on my podcast, and they were saying yes. So I identified this very early that forget doing a podcast to produce the content, but it's actually a great way to get networking with senior people.
Yeah,
So yeah, to answer your question, yes, for just doing that aspect of the ability to network is priceless.
I did that when I started my podcast. I was like, hey, what do I want it to be about? And what are people going to listen to? Like, that was my focus, like content creation and having something I could continuously chat about. And I had varied interests like you did. Like, how do you tie Cleveland Browns, cooking, and journalism together? They're completely unrelated, other than the fact that it's your personal experience and your interest. And mine was networking, fitness, business, and startups, like just kind of like random stuff too. I was like, well, how can I talk about one, not the other, not the other? But I just started doing it. And I think I realized the same thing pretty early on. It's not really about the content and the people like listening and following you personally, but the doors you open. Like, you can call up somebody that's your favorite author. Hey, can I ask you a bunch of questions about that book you wrote? No, I'm not even going to take your phone. You want to come on my podcast? I can ask them all about it. Sure, why not? Like, I'll be there at 3 p.m. Like, they're so apt to do that. And you say, like, okay, how could you stand out if you're in B2B sales? And I've had this idea. I think somebody should just run with it. Like, if you're selling to Fortune 500 companies, I'd create a podcast about leadership. I would interview people about like C-suite level executives about leadership, business lessons, stories of life, whatever it might be. Get them on. At the end of the show, they're like, hey, what do you do? Well, I sell business to companies just like yours. Could you do me a favor? Can you make an introduction to your purchasing department? Yeah, sure. Why not? No problem. And then the CEO calls down the purchasing department. Hey, Joe, take a meeting with Nate. He might not thinking of it, but guess what? Joe thinks, oh, the CEO just called me. I better take this meeting, and I better take it seriously. And it's going to open doors you didn't see open. And I think that right there is the power of having a podcast, and it's super underutilized.
Yeah, I would highly recommend anyone that's got an interest in anything just talking about their opinion on a podcast, and you'll never know where it goes. Like this week, I've been on TV in America, the UK twice. And that's all because of my podcasting. It all started 3 years ago. And, I've created a following, a backing, and, you have to be consistent. you have to give it all. You have to go all in. So yeah, and the results are great, and I much prefer to have an open conversation like this where where it's open, people can be listening, watching, versus a closed call, and yeah, you're being efficient again. You are using this opportunity to have a long phone call or do a live LinkedIn session. So be efficient, do things live, be organized, be prepared, and yeah, push record and create some content.
There you go, easy enough. So how did you get into the Cleveland Browns? I mean, most people see. Okay, here's a little story. We used to have. I grew up in the Midwest, Lincoln, Nebraska, and we used to have these like dudes from Britain would come over and teach us like soccer. We call it soccer over here.
We
These
call it
soccer.
football, but
Um,
I'm
uh,
on your show.
we call it these soccer camps, like 1 week soccer camps, and they would come out and and you know, Americans aren't that interested in soccer that they are as American football. And but they would be like just like so into their favorite athletes and the game itself and all the stuff. And then like they had no clue about American football. And then they would give it, a little grief, like, hey, you don't even use your feet. Like it's so like how does somebody like yourself, like even I don't even know if you could get Cleveland Browns on TV back when you're kind of growing up, where you get these memories impressed upon you. But how did you get into the Cleveland Browns?
Yeah, so American football is actually quite international. It may not be played in Russia, but across Europe, Australia, not Asia so much, but yeah, definitely across Europe and yeah, Australia. Yeah, so some of your key Western countries, Super Bowl, and we have free TV showing an hour a week of highlights of American football. So as a child, I always used to remember watching the American football on Channel 4, free terrestrial TV every week. And so, yeah, I used to watch it, be really interesting. Didn't really understand it. But it was interesting, to see what was going on. But then probably 15 years ago, my name's Paul Brown. So instead of buying Raiders clothes, American football clothes, it's a bit cool, a bit trendy. So instead of buying the Raiders, which I'd probably say is probably the most sexiest of American football brands, I went with the surname Browns. Uh, so buying a hat with Cleveland Browns on. So 15 years ago, I had no idea if it was a basketball, American football, hockey, whatever it was. But then 5 years ago, I was in my office and there was a lot of Americans and they were doing a fancy league, fancy draw. And they said, look, we're a player short. We need you to be part of it. I'm good at fancy football, soccer. So I thought if I take the same methodologies into American football, I'll give it a go. Anyway, I was rubbish. And I realized I had to learn the sport very quickly. So I used to come home from work every day, YouTube, you know, what's a defensive end? What's an O line? What does nickel dime mean? Safeties, two coverage, had to learn, the basics of American football. So just watching YouTube videos over and over again and learning. And yeah, obviously had to learn the roster of the Cleveland Browns and then slowly learn the key players of all 32 teams in the NFL. And that's really where it started. Why I like American football is in soccer, you know, it's not so much about field possession. It's not so much about the time. You've got to score a goal. You can score 2 goals in 2 minutes. But with American football, you need to get 10 yards. You maybe have to get a touchdown. Maybe you're going to run it. Maybe you're going to throw it. You'll keep an eye on the clock. If you give the ball to the other team, you have to work out how much time, clock management. So there's a lot more elements in American football, which I enjoy, and like the difference between soccer and football.
Yeah, very cool. So taking your knowledge of nothing to becoming, you created a podcast on football, but
Yeah.
then you're also working with professional athletes. How did you turn that passion into working with, I guess maybe some of your, people you looked up to, and this industry that's, it's pretty glamorous. Like I think a lot of people are like, hey, if I'm around football players, that's pretty damn cool. Like, how do I start doing social media with, star athletes?
Yeah, I think you have to be honest. So I don't try and become the biggest stato on American football, and emotional intelligence kicks in. If there was an American guy telling me about English soccer and trying to be more technical, analytic than me, I'd probably get a bit peed off. So yeah, it's being quite humble and trying to understand. Trying to, if I go to a pub in Cleveland, I don't want to tell the locals that I know more or think I know more about the football than them, but I need to know everything that's going on. So if I do have a conversation, I can at least hold my own. And yeah, I think that's quite important. But I always put my hands up and say, I can give you a fan's view versus a technical view. So yeah, and I think anyone can do that in any industry. You don't have to become a subject matter expert on your podcast, but you can give an opinion, and
Mhm.
someone may be interested in listening your opinion.
Yeah, that's very true. Like, there's been times in my past this is actually a very specific interest. Like, I had a genuine interest of becoming like super involved in fitness at one point, and I remember I was kind of getting out on my journey, and Facebook was just kind of like taking off. I remember posting on Facebook like an opinion about something, and somebody like got on there and was like, you don't know enough about that to make that call. And I was like, you know what? They're right. I don't. And then like I felt like my dreams and hopes were like shattered, and I kind of like pulled everything back. And for like a long time, I didn't want to put anything out there content wise that wasn't like vanilla. It was like, here's what I'm eating for dinner, or here's what I'm at, just something that was just like, very, very non-polarizing, not even to like create a stir, but just like, it's just boring, safe content. And when I started my podcast, it was scary because I was like, I've never felt comfortable talking about my feelings or my opinion, or a subject that I felt compelled enough to give a talk on it, where somebody might actually listen and maybe like or not like. And so I think, you're right. Like, hey, a lot of us don't get started on social media because we don't think we're smart enough, good enough expertise, but we can still have an opinion on something as a fan, as a student of that topic, and continue to learn. And the cool thing is when you start doing that, you start getting connected with the experts in that little niche, and all of a sudden you're learning a ton just from being around people that know more about it than you are. And all of a sudden your knowledge level, your skill level improves with everybody else.
Probably my biggest tip to say is if you go into a new industry or someone like myself who's got 5 years experience on Cleveland Browns, I've had Hall of Famers, I've had the owners of the Cleveland Browns on my podcast. Um, yeah, many legends, done over 600 podcasts, but I keep a very neutral view. But the top tip I've got is ask questions and do polls. And like today, I'm an English guy talking about the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns lost last night. And I asked the question, do you feel disappointed or do you feel encouraged by their performance? So I'm not saying Cleveland Browns are rubbish, or, I'm actually asking a question to my fan base or my audience, just asking a simple question. And yeah, it's really interesting to see what response you get back from that.
Hmm. What's been the response so far?
We're gonna have a quick look now. You're one step ahead, so I'm just gonna bring it straight up. But yeah, you can see. So I don't know whether the cameras. So I put that up there. Like, how you feeling this morning? You can see there's over 1,000 votes. And 69% are encouraged.
Yeah.
And it just gives you a quick snapshot of how the fan base is feeling. You're learning and understanding, and I think that's the most important thing. Is um, I'm going to contradict what I've just said. There is That's the safe route to do, is ask lots of questions, and that's my tip for anyone starting, is ask questions. Anything you post, make sure the first thing you write is a question. So instead of saying this is a lovely Rolls Royce, you ask what color Rolls Royce would you get? And that's my super top tip, is just whatever you post, make sure it's a question, make sure it's engaging. Now, I'm 5 years in and into this journey, and people are saying to me, you need to have more of an opinion. So to become a subject matter expert and to be invited more on TV, you do need to have a stronger opinion. So you
Mhm.
can't always sit on the fence. And that's what I'm trying to do more at the moment, is have an educated opinion. And
Definitely,
it's tough,
definitely great advice.
Yeah. And it's tough because I want to be authentic. I don't want to just say this is how I feel when it's not true, just to produce some conflict. So yeah, I'm slowly trying to be a little bit more opinionated in my posting, with a view to get more and more TV gigs, basically.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because I'll post or think about something that like I'm like, okay, this is like one opinion I have and I very strongly. But I also feel like I can see the other side of things easily too. And like, okay, well, maybe that set of circumstances is a little different. So I totally lost my train of thought. I was trying to
Don't worry,
put this.
Jade's coming with a good point there. So, hi Jade, tell us where you are in the world. But yeah, it's a really good point that Jade's made. Is some people are interested in the journey or discovery into something new too. And Jade, I think that's a really, really good point. And I think it comes down to also is, I'm so keen to say how great 2020 was for me personally in the business, but people just think that's like a humble brag, like like trying to promote yourself with a brag. Taking someone on a journey, telling people about the negatives you've had and some of your successes, getting that balance right is really important. So, anyone that's thinking about setting up a new business, you know, don't be scared to talk about how you just ordered 100 postcards and you've got a spelling mistake. Don't be embarrassed about it. Just say, it's happened. So um, yeah,
People love those stories because they've done that or they've experienced it or they've done something just as stupid or silly too. So like I get that. And that makes you more relatable. When we're just like always so polished and professional, then people like they have this perception of who you are because they see you. Like, so if you're somebody that's like I always wear a tie, you always got a serious look on your face, they have this perception that you're like super, super uptight and super serious. But if they knew that like what you do on the weekends and let your hair down and do Jaeger bomb shots and watch, funny movies like they're like, oh, I didn't know like you were that kind of person. Like I totally like you now, and I thought you were just this jerk. And so I think there is something true to be said that like if you need to show all aspects of your personality when you're building a business, and social media allows you to showcase that easier. So it's like, hey, I've seen you. I have some familiarity with you. I know that there's more to you than just this one business part of your aspect that you represent.
yeah, I think it's a really good point, and there is no right and wrong answer, and I see everything as a scale. So Jesus, it's hard to do it with the cameras, but everything's a scale and where you sit along that. And obviously, today I've come across, I think, 90% serious. But yeah, if you follow me on social media, I'm probably a lot more on the fun side. But I feel there's a time and a place, and emotional intelligence is the most um, important thing. Knowing when to do something and not to do it is really important. I.e., I'm not doing a Jaeger bomb now on your show because it's the first time I've been on your show. However, I was on the BBC News this year and I was drinking a Guinness. They asked me to do a report in the pub. Now, in a pub, you drink a Guinness, and at the end, I did a Jaeger bomb on national TV. So yeah, I chose to do that. Bit of branding, bit about me, and it went down well. But like I said, now it's the first time I'm here. You may think I'm a right idiot, not showing you respect by drinking a Jaeger bomb. So it is that respect and time and the emotional intelligence.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked a little bit about it as we were discussing our through our conversation today. But what does it mean to you to be all in?
I think all in is classically for me, obviously the gambling, all in poker. That's the first thing it means when you say all in. But yeah, for me, all in will mean from a business point of view, um, someone like myself, Monday to Friday, I work 9 till 10 o'clock at night. I'm all in. Weekdays, I'm all in. But if there's something interesting going on in the day, I will leave my work and go and produce content. So and some days I wake up and I've got no content. So I'll do what I said. I'll go for an hour walk and I'll probably find 10 bits of content. And yeah, so for me, all in for me is all in business. And on the weekend, is spending time with friends, family, and switching off as much as I possibly can.
Awesome, excellent answer. So we didn't get much talk going on about your business, but I do want to know, who do you work with? Who are those people that are your ideal clients, and what is the work you do with them?
Yeah, so our business splits into two: video creation and social media marketing. So we classically will create videos for startups, uh, influencers, anyone that basically needs a video. We strongly recommend our audience to do their own videos. So you may be thinking, well, that's a bit conflict of interest. But yeah, I would highly recommend everyone to use their mobile phones, create some video content, try, play. And then maybe when you're doing something a bit more professional that, needs to go out to target clients, give us a shout. And yeah, what we do is we basically make videos for people very reasonably priced. So we're about £200, 250 US dollars to produce videos for our clients.
Yeah. So you made a good point. Is like, you make that content with your phone. And I think what people do is they get scared, like, hey, if I don't make something that's like professionally produced, that I can't post it. And then what ends up happening is, like you said, it's 250 bucks. And so if like you're just out there getting started, it's like 250 bucks one time, not too bad, not too big a deal. But if you're going to post content 4 or 5 times a week, you go, I can't spend $4,000 making videos. So I'm just not going to do it. And then I just have this one video that gets seen a few times, doesn't get seen by a lot, because I'm not making enough content to generate interest to go see all the new stuff. So I definitely think that's a real good piece of advice, is to create that content casually with your phone, and then mix in some higher produced stuff that's going to get a ton more attraction because you've already kind of built this following.
Yeah, so I think that's the key thing for our side is um, we don't do sales anymore. We now have the approach of helping people. So I would much prefer to help 40 people a week than do 40 business development calls.
Yeah.
So and that's kind of like people think to you like, oh my God, you could have sold 40 videos at £250. But you know, if you can help people for free and you know you can do so much on the phone. And I get a lot of enjoyment out of social media, I'll be really honest. And if you can pass that enjoyment on, then it's always useful, it's always great. You get referrals, chill out. It's not all about sales targets. Have a good time, meet interesting people, and I think you'll be rewarded a lot more. So that's kind of our strategy, is just simply help people out. And yeah, when people need help, they come back to us. And yeah, my phone's always on 24/7 to help people out with social media or video creation.
That's awesome. And I love that approach too, because if I'm on calls with people and it's like a sales call, there's just pressure on me that I need to be doing something, right? Like, okay, did I say the right things? Did I pitch the right thing? And all of a sudden this conversation doesn't feel authentic and natural. But if I'm just like hey, like what's this person up to? What can I help them with? Who is one or two people that they may have mentioned they have a problem with that I could introduce them to that might help them solve it? And if I'm sitting there thinking about like that and let the conversation flow and just like no expectations of where it might go, I'm having like amazing conversations, getting connected with people I would have never have thought possible all across the world. And it's like a ton of fun. And I just like feel like every day is a blast. And I think that there's something to be said about just taking that sales pitch out and just build relationships. And it's a little bit of a longer strategy, but I think you're going to find it works better in the long run because you're building solid foundation, people you want to work with, right?
And I've got to say, it's a cultural thing as well. And sorry for everyone in America, but America versus Europe. I've worked across the pond quite a lot, and the American pitch is a hard sales pitch where the Europeans will be like, okay, where are we going for a beer? We talk over a beer. You know, if you like each other, you'll do business together. So there is a cultural difference, but I 100%, I've got no issues with thinking it would work the same in America. Is just, just be yourself, have a chat. You've obviously got to have a purpose for the chat. You can't just phone up and talk about Jaeger bombs, Cleveland Browns, and cooking. You've got to be answering some of their problems and solutions and trying to support each other. So, yeah, my advice always is to, you know, make the effort to reach out to new people all the time. So you asked a question earlier, I didn't really answer it, was around how do I network with, I don't know, influencers and sports people. Well, I make the effort with a headhunting approach to absolutely making sure that I'm reaching out to new people all the time. So taking a football team on Instagram, on Twitter, I'm reaching out to these players. There's 90 players on a roster. 80 of them won't get back to me, but 10 will. And that's the dedication that you need, is that you need to be constantly, you know, sending bespoke messages to these football players that may get a reply. Once you get a reply, keep it real. Don't go for the close. Build a genuine relationship up with people.
Awesome stuff. Love what you're talking about. Love what you're doing.
Look
So
at
we have
that.
one more question. Do you drink maple syrup or not? You want to
Oh,
go?
maple syrup is very expensive in England, but it's very nice. But yeah, do you know what? Whatever it is, whether it be a beer or a bucket of maple syrup, do a networking event with maple syrup. I don't know what you dip, mate. What would you, marshmallows into maple syrup? Would you or
You might maybe like cut up like some little like waffle bites or something,
waffle
or
bites?
maybe
Okay,
like a little sausage on it. I don't know.
yeah, but yeah,
Mimosas to go with it.
yeah, exactly. So host a maple event. I know obviously we've got COVID at the moment, but that is the secret. I think is hosting events, inviting interesting people to your events. There's For networking, there's two people, I believe. There's audience, and then there's potential decision makers that or people that could be of interest. So you got your audience. Always build your audience up, and always build up them interesting people that can turn into future clients or really interesting guests for your podcast.
Awesome stuff. So if somebody wants to get connected to you, where should they go to find you? And what's your favorite platform to be on?
Well, favorite platform's got to be TikTok at the moment. I think it's one of the best out there. So, but yeah, it's really simple. It's Paul Brown _UK. Jade, Renee, Nicole, send us a DM on Instagram. I will always reply and say hi. And yeah, anyone who's watching this, send us a DM on Instagram. It's always great to meet with new people, and you never know where you're going to bump into them in the world. And I have a little saying: if you come to London, first drinks on me, second drinks on you.
I love that, man. And I appreciate you. And I encourage everybody that's listening now or in the future to reach out to Paul, say hello. And if you do have a conversation with him, make sure you let him know you heard about him on the All In podcast with Nate Pale. So, Paul, thank you so much for taking some time on your show late in the evening at your time and coming on to chat just kind of randomly about social media, football, and all kinds of things. So
No, it's been really nice. And the question to you is, where in the world are we going to meet up?
let's do the London. I've never been to Europe, and it's on my list of places to go. And right now I'm kind of working location independent, so there's no reason once COVID kind of like lightens up and we're traveling to make it way out there and grab a
So
point.
here's a crazy thing. Last year, I flew across the pond 30 times, 15 times, 15 trips. You can buy flights across the pond for as little as $300.
That's crazy.
And people don't know this. People get really scared that,
How
like,
are they letting Americans in like the European Union, countries
you,
right now?
but yeah, so all Americans should be coming over. I used to come over for 2 days and try not to get jet lagged and literally just stay awake for 2 days. Obviously, I got some sleep in and then sleep on the flight on the way home and then go straight into work next day.
Where do you go when you come out here?
Yeah, so last year I went to Arizona, Denver, New York, Cleveland, Pittsburgh. Yeah, they were the main places I went to, but it changes every year with the football. So next
Oh,
year I will be out in LA. Last year I went to Vegas. I saw the new Raiders stadium. That was cool. And but yeah,
you're in LA.
California.
We can easily meet up. That's not too bad to get there and make it.
Yeah,
Vegas,
but
either.
California's such an amazing state.
Yeah, it's
You
amazing.
in California or you in Nevada?
No, I'm in California, but
Yeah, okay.
Vegas is like 4 hours away. It's easy. It's easy close.
Yeah.
So awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show here.
Anytime. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you on LinkedIn, and I'll make sure I give you a follow on Instagram.
Perfect. Appreciate it.
All right, Nate, you take care, buddy.